Thump, thump, thump. The heavy knock echoed through the quiet house around 1 a.m. Ethan had no clue that simply securing his own internet would end with flashing lights splashing across his living room walls. But when he opened the door, there they were, a couple of officers, their faces illuminated by flashlight beams, looking like he'd just pulled off some major heist. And right behind them, Brenda, his next-door neighbor, arms clamped tight across her chest, face flushed with rage, smirking like she'd just busted the cybervillain of the year. "Sir, we got a call about illegal hacking," one officer stated, trying to hide a yawn. "Your neighbor here says you broke into her Wi-Fi and messed with her internet service." Ethan just stared, blinked. Then a short, disbelieving laugh escaped him. This has to be a prank, he thought. A really terrible one. But Brenda's expression was dead serious. No laughter there. She stood proudly, oversized sparkly sunglasses perched on her head despite the darkness, radiating the confidence of someone who'd just cracked a huge case. "Ma'am," Ethan managed, pinching the bridge of his nose. "Are you serious? You're saying I hacked your Wi-Fi? The internet I pay for? At my house?" "Yes," Brenda shot back. "I don't get the technical stuff, but you did it. My son and I were using it perfectly fine for several weeks, and then, poof, nothing. The only thing that changed was you fiddling with it." Ethan felt his brain stutter. Did she really just admit right in front of the police that she'd been leeching off his connection? The officer let out a quiet sigh, the kind that says, "Why me? Sir, can you tell us what happened?" Ethan took a breath. "Okay, look, my internet felt sluggish, so I logged into my router. I saw a bunch of devices connected that weren't mine, so I changed the password. That's the whole story. Nothing more." Brenda let out a theatrical gasp, like he'd confessed to burning down the community clubhouse. "Exactly. You cut us off deliberately. That's against the rules." Ethan looked hopefully at the officers, expecting them to shut this nonsense down. They just glanced at each other, probably having a silent debate about who had drawn the short straw tonight. The older officer finally addressed Brenda. "Ma'am, it's his internet service. He can change his password whenever he wants." Brenda's face contorted. "No, you don't get it. We're neighbors. We're supposed to share. My son can't finish his school project now?" Ethan nearly sputtered. "School project? Your son is usually screaming into his gaming mic until 3 a.m., yelling insults at people online." Brenda gasped again, clutching her chest as if deeply wounded. "How dare you speak about my Tyler like that?" At this point, even the police looked utterly drained. The younger officer sighed, giving Ethan a weary look. "Sir, do you want to file any complaint?" Ethan blinked, confused. "A complaint? Against her?" "Well, technically," the officer explained, rubbing the back of his neck, "using your internet service without your okay could be seen as theft of services." Brenda's eyes popped wide. "What?" Ethan paused, considering it. Oh, the temptation was real, but he had a different idea. "No, officer. No charges. I honestly just want to get some sleep." Relief washed over the officers' faces. They nodded and turned to Brenda. "Ma'am, please stop trying to use your neighbor's Wi-Fi. If you need internet, contact an internet provider. Have a quiet night." Brenda, practically vibrating with fury, stomped away, but not without aiming a shaky finger at Ethan. "This isn't finished." As soon as she vanished into her house, Ethan closed his door, muttering under his breath, "You have no idea." The next morning brought a fresh wave of absurdity. It began with his mailbox jammed full of furious, scribbled notes from Brenda, each more over the top than the last. "Shame on your lack of neighborly spirit," declared one. Another warned, "The universe is watching your selfishness." The peak, however, was a poorly faked petition demanding, "Make Ethan share the internet again," signed about 10 times with Brenda's name in slightly different scripts. Then the neighborhood whispers started. At the local perk-up coffee stop, he overheard two women muttering behind their travel mugs as he passed. "That's the one," one whispered. "The internet hacker." Later, at Value Mart Grocers, a father quickly steered his child away as if Ethan were contagious. Even the postal worker gave him a look laced with pity. Ethan couldn't fathom it. Brenda had actually spun a tale convincing some neighbors he was some kind of digital menace hoarding the precious neighborhood Wi-Fi. Things took an even weirder turn that evening. While reviewing his network security again just to be safe, he saw something odd. An unfamiliar device was connected. Impossible, Ethan thought. He'd changed the password again. No one else should be on his network. A knot of unease tightened in his stomach. Someone was definitely inside his system. Driven by curiosity and a growing sense of alarm, he started tracking the device's activity. This wasn't just casual browsing. Whoever it was, they were doing more. Accessing file systems, login portals, maybe even transactions. Something felt wrong. Then he saw it. The IP address linked to the connection. It wasn't originating from his house. It was coming from Brenda's. Ethan felt a cold dread creep up his spine. Someone in Brenda's house wasn't just mooching Wi-Fi. They were using it to hide something much bigger. Ethan sat frozen, staring at his monitor. The IP address trace clearly pointed next door to Brenda's house. He rechecked everything, thinking it had to be a glitch, but the system logs were consistent. Somebody over there wasn't just piggybacking on his internet. They were involved in something shady. His irritation morphed into serious concern. He knew Brenda could be unreasonable, but this felt different. This smelled less like entitlement and more like actual crime. He had to figure out what was truly going on. He decided to lay a digital trap. He reactivated an open guest network but named it something harmless like Free Community Link. Critically, he enabled detailed monitoring software that would log every site visited and action taken through that connection. If someone from Brenda's connected, he'd see exactly what they were up to. It didn't even take 15 minutes. The mysterious device reappeared, and whoever was using it wasn't just scrolling social media. They were hitting financial sites, accessing login pages for banking portals, and poking around cryptocurrency exchanges. Ethan's eyes widened in shock. This wasn't just about stolen internet anymore, this was full-blown hacking. A wave of nausea hit him. If someone at Brenda's was conducting illegal activities routed through his network connection, the blowback could potentially hit him if investigators traced the origin point. He needed solid proof. He watched as the user connected to a secured private server. This was way beyond simple web surfing. Whoever was doing this had skills. Ethan realized this was escalating beyond a neighborly dispute. He had to talk to Brenda, but confrontation needed finesse. Storming over there, yelling accusations would just make her defensive and likely lead to more drama. Instead, he meticulously printed the connection logs, the timestamps, and a summary report detailing the unauthorized device's questionable activities. She wanted another shouting match? Okay. But this time he was bringing receipts. When he knocked, Brenda flung the door open, her expression already sour. "Well, look who decided to crawl back. Ready to say you're sorry?" Ethan held up the printed pages. "Brenda, we really need to talk." She rolled her eyes dramatically. "Oh, please. What is it now? Was my recycling bin an inch too close to the curb? Did my bird feeder offend your delicate senses?" Ethan inhaled slowly. "Someone inside your house is using my Wi-Fi to hack into accounts." Brenda blinked, her face showing genuine confusion for a brief moment. "What on earth are you talking about?" Ethan handed her the documents. "These logs show a device connected from your IP address. It's been accessing financial records, private logins. This isn't just about Wi-Fi anymore, Brenda. This is really serious." Brenda glanced through the papers, her brow furrowed. Then she scoffed loudly. "This is nonsense. I don't understand any of this tech mumbo-jumbo." Ethan watched her closely. Her confusion seemed real. She genuinely didn't seem to know, which meant someone else in her house was the culprit. Just as that thought crossed his mind, Brenda's expression shifted too. Her eyes narrowed, and she spun around, facing the staircase inside her house. "Tyler!" she yelled up the stairs. A shiver went down Ethan's spine. Oh, this isn't good. Heavy footsteps thudded down the stairs, and a teenage boy appeared at the top. Tyler, Brenda's son, looked about 19, headphones draped around his neck, clutching a sleek tablet computer so hard his knuckles were white. Brenda waved the papers at him. "Explain this right now." Tyler's face went pale. I have no idea what that is." Brenda's nostrils flared. "Ethan says someone in this house has been using his internet connection again." She paused, squinting at the technical details on the page. "Something about hacking?" Tyler swallowed hard. "That's crazy. I don't know anything about that stuff." Ethan noticed the death grip Tyler had on his tablet, the way his eyes flickered nervously towards the front door. He was definitely hiding something. Brenda fixed her gaze on him. "Tyler, hand me the tablet." Tyler instinctively stepped back. "Mom, no! It's private." Her voice became sharp. "Now!" Raw panic flashed across Tyler's face. "It's mine! You can't just take—" Brenda lunged, snatching the tablet from his grasp before he could pull away. She held it like a trophy and marched back down the stairs. Tyler looked physically ill. Ethan tensed as Brenda fumbled with the tablet, her lips tight. Okay, let's just see what's so important that you… She stopped abruptly. Her face morphed into an expression of utter disbelief and horror. Tyler retreated further up the stairs. Mom, wait! I can explain everything. Brenda's eyes shot up to meet his, and for the first time since Ethan had met her, she looked truly, deeply scared. What is this? She whispered. Ethan cautiously leaned over her shoulder. The tablet screen showed a long list of compromised accounts, streaming platform logins, online bank account details, credit card numbers, all listed under various aliases. Tyler hadn't just been borrowing Wi-Fi. He'd been systematically stealing people's private information. Ethan muttered a curse under his breath. He suspected something bad, but this was serious criminal activity. Brenda turned slowly to face her son, her voice trembling. What have you been doing? Tyler was already backing away. It's just some game stuff. It's nothing really. Brenda's voice cracked. You stole people's bank accounts? Tyler's panic shifted into defensiveness. No, not really. Just like video accounts. People share those passwords constantly. Ethan crossed his arms. Really? What about the financial logins? The crypto wallets? Were you stealing money too? Brenda looked like she might actually collapse. Her face had drained of all color. Tyler, they could trace this. This could come back to us. Tyler opened his mouth, then clamped it shut. He knew. He'd known all along how serious this was. For possibly the first time ever, Brenda was rendered speechless. She dropped the tablet onto a nearby end table as if it were contaminated. Oh my God, Ethan sighed heavily. Yeah, that's pretty much what I thought. Brenda started shaking her head frantically. No, this can't be happening. This is your fault. She spun back towards Ethan, her voice suddenly shrill. You must have done something. You've had it out for us since you moved onto this block. Ethan just stared, incredulous. Are you actually serious right now? Brenda pointed a trembling finger at Tyler. Tell me the truth. Tell me Ethan hacked your tablet. Tyler's face twisted in disbelief. Mom, what? No, that's insane. Brenda covered her ears with her hands. I don't want to hear it. We're fixing this. We are going to make this disappear. Ethan let out a humorless laugh. Brenda, this isn't like getting a parking ticket dismissed. Your son has been committing federal offenses. Ignoring him, Brenda paced back and forth like a caged animal. Then she stopped, turned to Ethan, a strange, desperate glint in her eyes. You don't have to report this, do you? We can just let this go? Ethan's eyebrows nearly disappeared into his hairline. You cannot be serious. Brenda lowered her voice to a conspiratorial whisper. I could bake you something nice. My brownies are famous. Ethan blinked. I avoid sugar. Brenda balled her fists at her sides. Fine. Money. I'll pay you. Ethan exhaled sharply. Lady, your son is involved in major cybercrime. The authorities were bound to catch up eventually. Brenda's face contorted with rage. You just think you're so high and mighty, don't you? And then, with almost perfect timing, a loud, authoritative knock rattled the front door. Tyler froze instantly. Brenda's eyes shot towards the door, her breathing ragged. Ethan calmly folded his arms. Well, he murmured. That didn't take long. The knock sounded again, louder, more insistent. Then a clear, deep voice announced, This is the Federal Cybercrime Unit. We need to speak with Tyler Miller. Brenda gasped audibly. Tyler looked like he might faint. Ethan? He just took a mental sip of his imaginary soda. A thick silence fell over the room. Brenda looked like she'd just encountered a phantom. Tyler stood rigid, his face sheet-white, hands clenching and unclenching at his sides. The knock came again, harder this time, impatient. The voice outside repeated, each syllable landing like a stone. This is the Federal Cybercrime Unit. We need to speak with Tyler Miller. Brenda's gaze flickered wildly between the door and her son, her mind clearly overloaded. Suddenly, she lunged, grabbing Tyler's arm and hissing frantically, Go upstairs! Wipe the tablet! Hurry! Tyler pulled his arm away, shaking his head desperately. Mom, it doesn't work like that. They obviously already know. Brenda spun toward Ethan, her fear instantly replaced by frantic accusation. You called them. This is your doing. Ethan just raised an eyebrow. Lady, your kid has been running a cybercrime operation for who knows how long. All I did was kick him off my internet. Brenda's face flushed with anger. But before she could launch into another verbal assault, a different voice called from the porch. Mrs. Miller, we can hear you inside. We strongly advise you cooperate. We have a warrant. Ethan let out a soft whistle. Ooh, a warrant. That definitely changes things. Brenda made a strange, strangled sound, a mix between a sob and a gasp. Her hands trembled visibly, her breaths coming in short, shallow bursts. Then, in a move so bizarre it defied logic, she snatched the tablet off the end table and shoved it toward Ethan. Here, take it. It belongs to you, she yelled. Ethan barely managed to catch it before it crashed to the floor. He stared at her, completely baffled. What are you talking about? Brenda gestured wildly with her hands. They can't find it if it's yours. You planted the evidence. Ethan took a slow breath, trying to wrap his head around the depth of her delusion. Are you seriously trying to frame me right now? Brenda's eyes looked manic. You had access to our internet. You could have put that stuff there. You're the real hacker, Ethan gaped at her. Brenda, you literally yelled, "Wipe the tablet," less than a minute ago. Tyler groaned, burying his face in his hand. Mom, just stop, please. Brenda grabbed her son by the shoulders, giving him a little shake. Don't you say anything. We deny it all. The knocking escalated to pounding. Final warning. Open this door, or we will force entry. Brenda let out a shuddering breath, took one step towards the door, and then did the absolute last thing anyone expected. She bolted towards the back of the house. Ethan blinked in astonishment. Tyler's jaw hit the floor. Before the shock could register, Brenda launched herself through the closed backyard window. Glass exploded outwards. A heavy thud followed, accompanied by a pained groan. Ethan cautiously peeked through the shattered window frame. Brenda was lying on the lawn, hopelessly tangled in her plastic flamingo collection, moaning. Oh my God, he muttered aloud. She actually jumped. Tyler smacked his forehead. She's completely lost it. Before Ethan could respond, the front door flew open. FCU agents streamed in, alert and focused, moving with practiced efficiency. Within moments, Tyler had his hands up, looking terrified and close to tears. One agent took the tablet from Ethan's hands while another went to the back window, staring out at Brenda, who was still groaning amidst the pink plastic birds. The agent near the window said into his radio. Might need paramedics for the female resident. Brenda moaned louder from the yard. I didn't do anything. One of the agents nearby rolled his eyes subtly. Mrs. Miller, you just threw yourself through a plate glass window. I was scared, she wailed. Ethan leaned against the wall, watching the chaotic scene unfold like some bizarre reality TV show. Tyler was being questioned. Agents were examining the tablet, and Brenda was providing a soundtrack of groans from her flamingo nest. An agent eventually approached Ethan. You're the neighbor who reported the suspicious network traffic? Ethan nodded. Yeah, I didn't exactly expect all this, though. The agent consulted a small digital notepad, glancing at the preliminary data. Well, your report helped, but you weren't the first flag. We've been tracking extensive fraud linked to Tyler's online activities for months. This kid was hitting targets across several states. Ethan's eyebrows shot up. Wait, several states? From across the room, Tyler let out a groan of pure misery. Seriously? Brenda, still entangled in the lawn decorations, suddenly yelled, He's just a teenager. You can't take my baby. The agent closest to the window sighed. He's 19, ma'am, legally an adult. Brenda let out a sound that was part shriek, part sob. But he didn't know it was wrong. Tyler let out a long, defeated sigh. Mom, please stop talking. The agents ignored her continued protests and turned back to Ethan. We appreciate your diligence. Things could have gotten much worse if this hadn't been stopped. Ethan shrugged slightly. Honestly, I just wanted my Wi-Fi password to stick. One of the agents offered a small smile. Well, you probably saved quite a few people from identity theft. Meanwhile, Brenda, having untangled herself slightly, was now pointing dramatically at Ethan from the lawn. He's the mastermind. He framed my innocent boy. An agent exchanged a weary look with his partner, then addressed her with forced patience. Ma'am, we have months of digital evidence directly linked to your son's devices and accounts. This investigation started long before tonight. Brenda's mouth worked silently for a moment. Finally, she slumped back onto the grass. This is completely unfair. Tyler let out another deep sigh. Can we just go already? The FCU team finished gathering their evidence, secured Tyler's confiscated electronics, and escorted him toward the front door. Brenda, finally grasping the reality of the situation, scrambled upright and stumbled after them. "Wait! Hold on! I need to call someone! A lawyer! Oh. The front door clicked shut, cutting her off. Silence descended. Ethan let out a long breath and surveyed the now empty, chaotic living room. Shards of glass glittered on the carpet. Brenda's stack of angry notes still sat on the counter. And for the first time in what felt like ages, the house next door was profoundly quiet. He exhaled again, slowly, then walked back to his own house, making sure to double-lock the door. For the first time since moving in, Ethan sank onto his couch, opened his laptop, and logged onto his own secure Wi-Fi without a single worry about uninvited guests. The following morning, the neighborhood was electric with gossip. Brenda's house stood empty. News spread that Tyler was facing serious felony charges. And Brenda? Someone saw her furiously loading boxes into a rental truck. Her face set in the same angry lines Ethan knew so well. By lunchtime, she and the truck were gone. Later that day, as Ethan watered the flowers in his front yard, another neighbor, an older gentleman named Mr. Peterson, ambled by, offering a knowing smile. "So, Mr. Peterson said, nodding towards the empty house next door. "Heard Brenda finally shipped out." Ethan couldn't help but smirk. "Yep," Mr. Peterson chuckled softly. "Suppose that means you came out on top." Ethan took a deep breath, savoring the surprisingly clean, quiet air of a Brenda-free street. "Oh," he replied, "I definitely came out on top.